Thaine Chase, nice seeing you.
Oh, good to see you. Thank you for coming by. Appreciate it.
You have been writing for how long?
Well, I started writing in film and television probably in the 90s. And most recently, in the last 6 years, I switched over to fiction novels. I got out of the film and television industry, and I decided I wanted to do something different. So I decided I'd give it a try. I'd never tried novels before. I've written scripts, teleplays, I've written plays for theater, but I'd never done fictional writing for novels, so that was a new thing for me, and I was excited to try it.
And you've been very productive.
Yeah, it's been about 5 years, and I've got 7 decent works out. I've got from a collection of short stories all the way up to a trilogy, an action thriller trilogy. So I've been very fortunate to have a lot of time to write, and a lot of people have given me feedback, which inspires me to write more. So it's always good.
Would you like to talk a little bit about your work?
When I was writing scripts and screenplays, the writing's very different. You don't utilize a lot of expository descriptions. You don't really take into all the senses. A script is what you see on screen. So instead of saying the room was dark and musty and it smelled of da-da-da-da-da, you would say Tom walks into the room. So the writing was almost very stoic, very unemotional. So when I was thinking about doing novels, I didn't know if I could do it because the writing's so different. So I started out by doing short stories. I just wanted to test myself to see. And I said, I'm going to write a few short stories. And then all of a sudden I had about 20 of them. So I decided that would be my first publication. So that was Tales from the Eastern Wind. It's my short story collection. It was the first thing I wrote that was fictional in kind of like the narrative venue, and it was really well received, and it did really well, which inspired me to do more. And from there, then I tried to do as many genres as I could possibly let myself do. I don't do horror. I don't think I'm going to be a good horror writer, so I don't write horror. But I've done a fantasy sci-fi epic, which is Empire of One, which was my next novel that I wrote. And then after that, I wrote Letters from Lincoln B, which is literary fiction, like a drama, very sentimental. And it's won a few awards for me, actually. It's been very, very well received. And then from there, I wrote a mystery set in St. John's called City of Legend Shooter. It's like a mystery with a little bit of a metaphysical kind of little metaphysical flavor to it. And then after that, I wanted to do action, because when I wrote film and television, action was my genre that I wrote. So I wanted to try my hand at novelization action. So I have an action thriller trilogy called the Corbin Dwyer series, which is Rise by Sin. Then the second book is Never Found Lying Down. And then the third book is Blood Will Tell. And initially it was supposed to be one book, but because Rise by Sin did so well, and I got a lot of wonderful feedback, I turned it into a trilogy. And that's where I am today. And I'm writing my 4th Corbin Dwyer one as we speak. It's almost therapy writing. It's like storytelling. So things that might bother you in your own life, you can put on the page and kind of deal with it. I just want something that I can leave behind when I'm no longer here. I think it's nice that something will live on, and the written word is very powerful. But what inspires me to write is storytelling. Words can change the world. I've always believed that. And I'm hoping through my writing that if I can get some kind of an emotional response from any reader, that's great. And for somebody to spend time letting me kind of step into their mind while they're reading my words, it's very complimentary to me. So I think it's a good way for me to interact with people by not being in the room. So there's a social aspect to it, which is, it's very ethereal, but I really think that that's what really inspires me, is just I might help somebody that I don't know, and whether I find out or not, there's always that possibility. And I think that possibility is what keeps me going, which makes me write the next one and the next one and the next one.
Who are your readers?
My readers are very, very broad. Because I write in so many different genres. But I find when I go to markets and people who actually physically interact with me, I would say my demographic, surprised me, is female readers between the ages of about 35 and 65. I find they are the one, and I never would think they would be so into my action thriller series, my Vigilante Justice Corbin Dwyer series, but they're my biggest fans for that series, which was wonderful for me, but very surprising. But I'd say most of my readers are in that age range, and I'd say 75% to 80% of my reader base is female.
Do you have a favorite book
Of mine or?
of yours?
Wow, that's a tough one. I would probably say, only because it was probably my first like novel. Like the short story collection was wonderful, but it's short stories. So I would probably say, because Empire of One, it's the first one I finished, it's got that sentimentality because it was my first one. Now, if you ask me which one I think represents my writing, the best writing that I've done, I would say probably one of my Corbin Dwyer books, in the trilogy, because each one, even my wife has said this, that each one my writing gets better and better. But sentimentality-wise, Empire of One, only because it was my first one that I finished, and when I typed the end, I was so excited. So that one kind of holds a place in my heart. I mean, Letters from Lincoln B, because it's won awards and it's gotten me some really, really nice feedback. Like I won Imaginarium Award in 2021. Basically, it's an award they give out in the States, and it won for Best Literary Fiction in 2021. So because of that, I mean, obviously, it's also going to hold a little special place in my heart, because it was a work of, I guess, personal voyage too, because there's a lot of me in that book, only because basically the main male character goes back into his past, and he discovers that things he did in his past actually can help him where he is now in his life. And I personally went through that as well, so I think there's probably a little bit of me in that character. I mean, as a writer, as an artist, any artist, no matter what your discipline, painters, singers, actors, writers, anytime you do art, there's a piece of you in there, but I find that one probably speaks the most to me for representing a little bit of me in that book, for sure. So,
Would you like to read something for us?
I just want to see. I'm going to see here. All right. Well, I'm just going to write one of my flash fictions, and flash fiction is a really short story from Tales from the Eastern Wind, and it's called Life of the Party. And I always open up with a little like saying from the Eastern Wind. So I treat the Eastern Wind as a character in the collection of short stories, so it links all the stories together. Always celebrate when you can, for no party is unending, the Eastern Wind. Never again, I thought to myself. I realized every decision I'd made tonight was wrong. I kept my mouth zipped while I stood so close to her. I wanted to compliment her, but I knew, aside from the fact she'd never be able to understand me, based on my look and her view of the world, she'd take offense to whatever I said. The very fact that I was standing near her at all was a miracle. I mean, there were 11 women in the room, yet she was the only one who noticed I even existed. And I was so thankful she didn't make a fuss. The evening started out beautifully. The moon was perfectly visible in the clear night sky, and the business official opening went off without a hitch. Though it felt a tad cliched with the cheesy cutting of the ribbon and the huge novelty shears, and of course the nauseating photo op handshake pose with some arrogant CEO who would never set foot in this place again. I remember thinking how good I thought she was, and pondered just how much simpler my life would be if I had a tenth of her skill, that ability she possessed to convince anyone to do anything. The rest of the night was tense, though I did find it heartwarming that she actually managed to check in with me a few times, just to make sure I hadn't scurried off because of either boredom or fear. I adored how casual and subtle she was while establishing my whereabouts, as the celebration of her big night grew in both intensity and joviality. By all reckoning, her night was a complete success, and it was quite evident to everyone this woman had a bright future in front of her. I had no reason to feel happy for her, nor did she need me to be. But I couldn't help it. I'd always been sensitive to energy, good or bad. It was the way I grew up. Certain vibrations meant certain results, and you had to decipher them quickly, or things could go horribly bad. I'd come this far in my life because I was good at picking up on the potential of these vibrations, but tonight I was off my game. So here we were, now the only two left in the room. The place was a mess from the party, and before I knew what was going on, I watched her grab a dirty glass from a table, approach me while mumbling something I couldn't understand. Before I could react, this woman, for which I had so much admiration, heartlessly destroyed the perfect web I had spun, trapped me in a dirty glass, and without a second thought, she took me outside and tossed me onto the ground. As the icy cold weather of winter took its toll on me, the last thought going through my mind was, well, she's got some nerve. So basically that was about a spider in a corner watching a woman have a party. So, but I tried to make it as a character that you think is like a guest at her party. And then when I first started, I didn't know where the story was going. So I had no idea what I was going to write for the ending. And then about a third through the story, I decided, hey, what if he is a spider? And that's how that came to be. I hope that was enjoyable.
What are you working on right now?
Currently, right now, I'm working on my fourth Corbin Dwyer action thriller. It'll be my last one for a while. I want to branch out and I want to do another genre. I don't know what it is yet, but I had a lot of feedback when Blood Will Tell, the third book of the series, came out. It kind of ended the storyline, and I had so many people writing me saying, we want another one, we want more Corbin Dwyer, so I'm going to do one more. Just the fans have been with me for so long in the fact that they've kind of coaxed me to do more, so I don't want to let them down, so I'm going to do one more. So,
have you tried poetry?
I've written some poems. My wife is an artist, a painter, and she has a book out called What He Art. It's a collection of all her paintings, and certain paintings I've written poems for, and that's been my only attempt at poetry. So it's in her book. So this is my wife's book, Roselle Doyle. It's called What He Art, the take on What He At. Nice Newfoundland greeting, and it's a collection of paintings by her. And as a kind of a collaborative thing, she asked me to do a few poems for certain works, so I did. And I did one that was dedicated to my dad, Greg Doyle, who's an iron worker. This was an original black and white photo of him back in the 60s when he was working, and my wife found it and she turned it into a lovely painting. So I decided to do a poem for it called World Builder, and dedicated it actually to my dad. He passed away in '98, but he's still in my heart, as it is, so, yep. Biting cold, searing heat, muscled fingers, fatigued feet. Ignoring panic at an ungodly height, all in an effort to build it right. Contemplated not by the crowds far below, yet constantly accosted by the harsh winds that blow. Boots and bolts are our only obsessions required, neglecting the dreams of our youth once inspired. Like a collective of effort, treating all as one, those labors and toils never left undone. Vertical shadows grow with each passing shift, and getting home to the family is the ultimate gift. We need not a medal, nor do we seek any praise, our epithets embedded in the steel beams we raise. Vast city skylines are the only proof we were here, and we repeat these same efforts year after year. And that's dedicated to all the iron workers that built all the big cities. So. And I wrote that for my wife. It was really, I was really happy to do it, and hopefully people enjoy it.
How many poems does it have?
It only has about 4 or 5, I believe. There's One Last Voyage. My wife did that based on Fiddler's Green, where the afterlife for a fisherman, where he passes on and where he goes. And then I did one called Rocks in Hard Places. That's a very short little poem. And that's just dedicated to the folks in Newfoundland. And The Less Traveled was another piece. So basically, if the piece kind of inspired me, then I would try to write a poem for it. So
what's it like to grow up in Newfoundland as a writer?
Well, I was born in Newfoundland, and I was only here till I was probably 7 or 8. My father worked in Toronto, New York, Detroit, and all the big cities, so he moved me to Ontario. So I got my schooling in Ontario, and then I came back home a little later after that. And I've been home now probably for about 5 years again. I came back every summer when I was a kid, and then when my dad retired, I came back a lot. And then when Dad passed away in '98, I found I didn't come very much. It was very sad for me to come home. And then when my wife and I decided that we wanted to move back here, I was excited to do it. It was a little bittersweet because I miss my dad every day. But being back home now, it's like I never left. And I've reacquainted myself with all of my relatives and my friends and my dad's friends. And it's heaven for me. I love it here. And I'm not going anywhere anymore.
How does the future look for Thaine Chase?
Well, I'm hoping the future looks good. I like to try to stay optimistic. I'll have days where, you know, every writer has writer's block. An artist's life, it's very hard. It's a very hard life when it's your only job. But I've done so many jobs in my past and whatnot, and now that I'm here and I'm writing as a career, it's a little scary because you're wondering, you know, are you going to have the resources to keep doing it? But I'm optimistic. I always have been, and I just enjoy it so much. So if I can make it work, I'll never work a day in my life because I love it so much. So optimistic.
How can people find you and your books?
I have a website. You can go to my website, which is just thainechase.com. And if not, I'm on Amazon, obviously. You can just search my name, and all my books are available on Amazon as well. And of course, here in Newfoundland, I love to go around to markets and whatnot, and I try to get out to as many markets as I can and meet people face to face. And if not, when my wife goes out to markets with her art, she sometimes takes my books as well. So they're out there, and so you can come across the markets here in Newfoundland, and if not, Amazon or my website, you can find links to get them.
Are your books online as well?
I used to do ebooks, and then I found my first three works, they ended up on pirated sites because they were ebooks. So I don't do ebooks anymore, and I found that none of my other books have been pirated since then. So unfortunately, right now I only do hard copies. I am looking into Audibles soon to do my books into Audible books, but right now hard copy is the only venue or the only medium that I print in. So.
If somebody wanted to start writing, what advice would you give them?
Write a little bit every day. Don't care about what you've written. When I do my first draft, a lot of people call it a rough draft, but in the film and television industry, I learned the term vomit draft. It sounds gross, but it is so true. Whatever words are in your head, just put them on paper or on the monitor, type them into the computer, and do not care what you write, just write. Writing is like a muscle. If you don't work it, it goes into atrophy and you'll stop writing. So worry not about the words, just get them out on the paper, and then you can rearrange them any way you like. And trust your readers will find you. That's my advice.